Thank you for viewing this latest Principals Update. This time we're going to be talking about student recruitment, a hugely important issue for the university. So logically I'm joined for the discussion by Rebecca Lingwood, whom you will know as the VP for the Student Experience, Teaching and Learning. We're now into the period of confirmation and clearing with respect to undergraduate admissions. And this requires, I'm very well aware, a huge amount of effort from both academic and professional services colleagues. Now, over recent years, the culture that has surrounded clearing has changed significantly, and it's worth, I think, reflecting on what those changes have been. Rebecca, perhaps you could summarise for us what those major changes are.
I think what's happened recently, in recent years, is that applicants are not just using the clearing process as we might historically have thought of it to find a place at university when they've missed their expected grades. But there's a much greater tendency now for applicants to use that process when they may already be holding their qualifications, or once they receive them, if they've done better than they expected to use the process, as we call it, for adjustment, to actually in effect to trade up to a different degree programme that might have higher entrance requirements, or to a different university. And we're seeing an increasing trend towards applicants doing this. To that end, we have an early clearing period which started at the beginning of July, and we're about to move into the full clearing period when the A-level results are announced. But what we see is that we've had more applications through the early clearing period than we might have expected, and just from last year.
So the preliminary indications are encouraging, albeit in the context of a significant pressure to effectively recruit this year.
Yes, that's correct. So currently for the early clearing period, which continues through to the 12th of August, we've had 45 confirmed places, and we've got 19 further offers which are in progress, and that compares with a total of 50 last year. So I think that indicates that there's a demand out there, and might be reflected in the full clearing process as well. But we'll get to see.
Yeah, those are small numbers, but the indications are good. In terms of the messages we can give to those students who are considering Queen Mary, is there a particular set of facts, set of indicators which we can focus on to encourage students to apply?
Well, I think certainly we've just received the latest results for destinations of our graduates from the 2014-15 academic year, and they're very encouraging. So we have 93.9% of our graduates from that year in employment or further study, and that compares with 93.2% for the previous cohort. So that puts us 0.8% above our benchmark position, and comparing with other Russell Group universities, in absolute terms it moves us from 22nd position to 13th, and in a benchmark ranking it puts us third of all of the Russell Group universities. So I think that's very positive.
And that's a very encouraging result. I think the benchmarking, of course, takes into account the student demographic, and therefore is the one that is perhaps most indicative of how well we're doing.
Yes,
that's an encouraging result. Yeah. So if we think now in terms of the other side of the coin, as it were, postgraduate recruitment, and in particular postgraduate taught recruitment, we are, of course, now an institution with a very substantial proportion of our students who are postgraduates, and indeed an increasing proportion. Where are we placed now with respect to taught postgraduate recruitment?
Yeah, so taught postgraduate recruitment started in June and will carry through until October for late applicants. So we have a way to go, and I think the process is less structured for postgraduates than it is for undergraduate through the clearing process. But nevertheless, we've made some real improvements, I think, this year that will help us to meet our targets if we possibly can. So things like the fact that we have a dedicated team of admissions officers who will be working on the postgraduate taught applications throughout the undergraduate clearing process. So we won't be diverted so much by the undergraduate clearing that we can't focus on postgraduate as well. We've also had an enhanced advertising plan. We've attended quite a lot of postgraduate recruitment fairs, and we've introduced some process changes that I think will make a real difference. So, for example, the postgraduate taught applicants can now upload their transcripts and their qualification certificates online, which speeds up the process, which means the decisions can be made much more quickly. And it's really critical, particularly for overseas postgraduate taught students, that the decisions are made really quickly and they get their certificates of acceptance through if they've got visa requirements and so on. So I think there are processes in place that will make this more streamlined than they have been previously.
So it seems to me, and I think you would agree, on both the undergraduate and the postgraduate side, there is every reason to believe that we can meet our quite ambitious targets. Yep. But I think also we're both conscious of the fact that achieving those targets is requiring and will continue to require significant effort from colleagues, both academic and on the professional services side. And I think it's appropriate perhaps to finish by saying that I think we're extraordinarily grateful to those colleagues who make the commitments in that way. We're very conscious of the fact that the success of the institution depends very heavily on their efforts. And so in advance to all of you involved in this process, thank you very much. We look forward, I think, to a successful outcome on both the undergraduate and postgraduate recruitment side. Well, thanks, Rebecca. I think that was very informative. Colleagues may have comments about what we've discussed today. And as always, I would welcome any input concerning this topic, as usual, addressed to principal@qmul.ac.uk.